Recording now. Good evening. My name is Carolyn Bunker, and we are so happy to have the Friends of the Public Education Roundtable of the League of Women Voters joining us tonight. We are so very proud to present a program tonight about the Guilford County bond and tax referendums. So please, I'd like to introduce to you our lifelong advocate in Guilford County of Public Education, Margaret Arbuckle.
Right. It's so wonderful to see friends, many of whom I haven't even seen for 2 years. It's just great to see everybody's face. Isn't Zoom amazing? Here we are, all looking like little postage stamps on the screen. It's just wonderful. Well, I am very excited about the opportunity for our citizens to cast a positive vote for our public schools. As those of you who've known me forever know that public education and supporting our public schools has long been a passion and commitment of mine. And years ago, when some of you supported me to be a county commissioner, was when we merged the 3 school systems into one and pretty quickly put before the voters an opportunity to improve our facilities, which is the responsibility of local government, is to provide the school buildings and to make certain that they are usable and appropriate for education. And we didn't make it the first time, but we did the second time. And then years and years have gone by. And the Board of Education has every year submitted to the county commissioners a request for capital funding for capital improvements and capital maintenance. And most years that has not been fully funded. And so consequently, we have put together now a significant list of needs and for both repairs and replacement of our school buildings, many of whom are old. The buildings are older even than some of us on this screen. And we know that our children should have and need to have really quality environments for their education. We're lucky to have one of the co-chairs of our bond campaign with us tonight. Frank Thomas is from High Point, and Cecelia Thompson is the one with us tonight, and she is the executive director, president of Action Greensboro. And I think it's significant that we have a representative from the faith community and a representative from the economic development community leading this effort for us to be able to vote positively to support our children's education. So Cecelia has a PowerPoint presentation to present that will take a few minutes, and then we'll have opportunity for conversation, questions and answers and comments. So Cecelia, I'm so glad to see you, and thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Margaret, and thanks for your lifelong leadership here in Greensboro and Guilford County to get us to where we are today. And so I'm really excited to be with you tonight and share a little about the efforts that we have for our Smart Schools campaign that is an effort to get voter approval for both the $1.7 billion school bond and also the 0.25% sales tax that are on the ballot on the May 17th primary ballot. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can give you guys a little bit of a visual. And there we go. I also just want to thank you for being here and being active citizens. I know that is something that is a part of our lives of trying to get folks to care and pay attention to the issues that are at hand. And there's a lot of things that people care about right now and important issues that are happening here and around the world. And for you to take the time tonight means a lot to our community and to our county. So again, I'm here to represent the Smart School Bond and Sales Tax campaign. So this is a similar campaign that you probably saw in 2020. In 2020, our campaign came together with a similar leadership with Frank Thomas and myself to run a $300 million school bond campaign. And the campaign was called the Smart Bond Campaign. And SMART stands for safe, modern, accessible, renovated, and tech ready. And we know that the Guilford County schools and Guilford County government came together in around 2017 to look at the facilities master needs in our community to look at every school in the district and determine what facilities improvements were necessary and needed. When that came together, there was a $2 billion price tag, and that was agreed upon that every school in the county needed to be touched. And with that $2 billion of need, we would provide safety and security measures, many of which are not currently in our school facilities. We would build new buildings. As Margaret said, many of those buildings are very old. The average age of a Guilford County school building is 55, but they're between 55 and 100 years old. And so we need to modernize many of these facilities in terms of new ways to learn, and of course, all the new technology that needs to be included in them. We need to have accessible schools that meet children of all needs and also include career and technical education within the school system. We know in economic development that the first thing that companies ask when they're looking at a location is, what are the quality of the schools and the quality of the buildings? And to provide STEM and early college and the range of career and technical education programs that GCS is putting together is really important, not only for the talent of the future, but in terms of the jobs that will be coming to Guilford County. Again, we need to renovate these schools so they're modern. And then finally, we need to be tech ready. There are not technology in many of the buildings, and that needs to be added. And so if you're asking yourself, what does SMART mean? It means safe, modern, accessible, renovated, and tech ready. So there are 2 referendums on the ballot on May 17th, and I'll remind you that early voting begins on April the 28th. The first referendum is a $1.7 billion school bond to rebuild and repair Guilford County schools. As I mentioned, there was a $2 billion need from the Guilford County Schools Facilities Master Plan in 2017. We won the $300 million campaign in 2020 with 73% of the vote. It was a really unprecedented number that came out to provide support to the school system. And we're really grateful for the Guilford County Commission for their leadership to go ahead and move forward, putting that $1.7 billion on the ballot so we can finish this and not have to come back bite by bite. This is really our opportunity right now to go ahead and secure those dollars for the full need. And then we have an additional a 0.25% sales tax that will be on the ballot that will help fund the debt from the bond. And so what we're trying to do is increase the revenues of the county. And so we can go ahead and pay for those without having to increase other taxes like property taxes. And I'll remind you that the sales tax here in Guilford County does not apply to groceries, vehicles, gas, or prescription drugs. And so we recognize that sales tax is a way to share that revenue also with visitors to our community. And we know right now in the world of furniture market that's happening, we have a lot of visitors here. Just this week is a great example. So the original 300 million, many people are asking what's happened already with the 300 million that was passed in 2020, and a significant amount of things have happened in a really short amount of time. So if you think those dollars were approved in November of 2020, and here we are in March of 2022. So a little over a year, a lot has happened. And I want to thank Guilford County Schools and their leadership for making that happen. HiCap C2 was selected as a construction project manager, and they're moving forward with making contracts with architecture firms and construction firms to begin the process. They've acquired new land for construction. So some of the original $300 million was for land acquisition, and we're glad we're doing it now, or we did it previously before this very hot real estate market. And then building renderings and conceptual designs are in process right now. And I'll show you a few of those for the schools, the first 8 schools that are included in that original 300 million. So here's an example of a new school that will be built. This is the Hampton Peeler K-8 Visual and Performing Arts School, a really beautiful design. We've had sort of mixed reactions to this school. Some people say, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Look at the art, and isn't that an inspiring place to learn? And some people say, wait, that looks really fancy. And we say, well, don't our children, one, deserve to have beautiful schools that they can be inspired and excited to show up to every day? But this is also sort of a simple building with some aesthetic pieces around it. So it can be built modestly and use tax dollar well, but also integrate some design components of it that can add that inspiration and that excitement for not only the school children, but when visitors come to our community, new residents, new businesses can come and really be excited and inspired by the new facilities that we are building. Here is another rendering, some conceptual designs for common spaces in new construction. We've learned over the years that we all learn a little bit differently. And so the old school classroom style desks are not always sort of the wave of the future in terms of teaching techniques. And so learning from school systems across the country to build collaborative spaces where students can learn, work in teams, and really feel real world environments when they're in the classroom. And so these are a couple renderings of conceptual designs for the new buildings. So as I mentioned, there are 8 schools in the initial, the facilities master plan for that $300 million. That includes Brooks Global Cities. As you remember, there was a lot of headlines when they found that the foundation of that building was cracking a couple of years ago, and that school building actually moved to the top. You saw the renderings for the new visual and performing arts school. You'll see the end dates that are here, and those are between 23 and 25, so a fairly short timeline to rebuild many of these schools. Peck Elementary School is going to be a new learning center. Faust is going to become a robotics and gaming school. Claxton, Kaiser, Southwest K-8, which will be a regional STEM school, a good example of our CTE or career and technical education programs. And then, of course, Irwin Montessori. So all of these schools are already in the docket for the dollars that were already approved in 2020. So why do we need these dollars? And I'm not sure if I need to convince all of you of this, because I know you're all supportive of public schools. But as I mentioned, the $300 million that was approved in 2020 was really a jumpstart to this plan. And we have an amazing opportunity to approve the $2 billion of needs, that full need with this 1.7. We know that our equipment malfunctions and crumbling facilities are really straining the school district in terms of their operational needs, their challenges in teaching, safety, security, all of those measures that need to be improved immediately. And as I mentioned, the average age of a building in Guilford County schools is 55 years old. The great thing about this plan is that every school in the district will be touched in one form or fashion. 100% of the schools will be upgraded with safety and security measures. As I mentioned, we'll be adding CTE programs from STEM and career and technical education programs. We're really excited to have HACO come on board last week as an endorser, because they know the value of CTE programming, particularly as they're doing aviation training in Guilford County schools. And so that's a direct link to a workforce need with our aviation cluster and the growth of boom supersonic coming to Guilford County. And then, of course, 100% of schools will be updated with instructional technology devices and equipment to support today's learning. So making sure that teachers want to come to Guilford County, that they have the tools that they need to be successful in the classroom. Here's a couple highlights. I know that you're all civically engaged just about heat. We hear a lot from teachers and parents about the challenges with HVAC in our school district, students either being too hot or too cold to learn or pay attention. You know that this is a headline that's sort of striking when animals are in better condition. There's a lot of challenges, as you know, that are facing many of our school systems. And I know the chairman of the Guilford County Commission has been touring many of those schools lately to see the conditions, and you've probably seen that in the news also. So let's also transition to the sales tax. And so the sales tax is needed really because it spreads the bond repayment beyond just property owners. Guilford County is the 3rd most visited county in North Carolina. Around $1.6 billion of outside revenue come in through visitors to Guilford County, and that could be through soccer or the Tanger Center or furniture market, all the visitors that come here. And that 1.6 billion was actually a number from 2019. The Guilford County, in terms of the revenue that would come in from the sales tax, in addition to the revaluation that just happened, will allow the county to not increase property taxes if the sales tax is passed. And so we know that lots of property owners are, it's a tricky year to pass this because we've all got our reval letters in the mail, but we know that that's the value of our home and not the tax rate. And so what we're trying to do is continue to have a tax rate neutral and also gain additional revenue to support the schools through the sales tax. The sales tax is very it's very small. It's not going to hurt your wallet. In other words, it's 5 pennies on every $20 that you spend. And again, it's important for people to know that that does not apply to groceries, vehicles, gasoline. We keep reinforcing it's not on gasoline right now, and prescription drugs. We have a lot of support for this effort, and these are just a couple of the companies and organizations that not only have endorsed the bond, but they've funded this campaign. It takes lots of dollars to put on a community effort where you're trying to convince 30,000 people to come to the polls, to remind them that there's a primary election, to make sure that they vote yes and yes for this effort. And so really companies of all sizes that have come on board, including the Greensboro Chamber and the Cone Health Foundation, civic organizations, as well as the PTA Council and the Realtors Associations have come on to support this effort. So many, many folks are behind us, helping us make this happen. So these are a couple materials that you'll see. We are doing a variety of external marketing. We have yard signs. We're going to be doing 3 waves of 30,000 postcards in the next several weeks. We have online digital ads that you may see when you're browsing the web or streaming a show on TV. And we'll have text messaging and all sorts of things really to get the word out. And so, you know, I want to answer your questions, but I'll first just make my ask to you. One is to remind you to come out and vote. Early voting begins on April the 28th and it ends on May the 14th. And then election day is May the 17th. We believe that these 2 items will be the last 2 items on the ballot. So make sure to go all the way to the end of the ballot and not just leave when you vote for your favorite candidate. We also would love for you to volunteer if you're willing and able. We are seeking volunteers to come to the polls and hand out door hangers to remind people that this is on the ballot. And then finally, we would just love for you to take a yard sign and spread the word. I know that you are well connected, good citizens in our community, and the more that we can talk about the importance of this, the more that we can get the word out and hopefully get both of these approved on May 17th. So again, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to answer any questions that you may have.
I'll get some.
Are there any at the Democratic headquarters?
I think so.
Should be.
Questions?
What about the existing schools that are failing? You know, like I think some of the schools on South Side.
Cecelia, remind everybody where the website, so where they can go to sign up to be a volunteer or make a contribution.
The website is smartschoolbond.com, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And you can sign up to volunteer. So I sent that to you, Margaret, as a direct message. You can sign up to volunteer on there. If you represent a company or organization, you can endorse this and we'll put your logo on our website. You can sign up to get a sign also. Byron, what happens if the sales tax does not pass? That's a great question. There will be, you know, I can't answer that because I'm not on the Guilford County Commission, and we don't know what the commission will decide. However, they will have to find additional revenue to pay the debt off of that. And so we hope that that's not a property tax increase, but that may need to happen. Carolyn, you had a question.
Yes, I have a group of ladies here with me and we all want yard signs. Where can we get yard signs?
We have yard signs at the Action Greensboro office, and I'll put the address in there. We are in the self-help building. If you guys remember where the old bargain box was downtown on the corner of Friendly and Elm Street, that's where we are. We're on that first floor and we've got a loading zone right in front of our office. And so you can swing by and pick one up or I can bring one to you. So.
Well, we're in High Point, but we'll,
okay.
But
we should
also
have a High Point location. So let me check on that, Carolyn, and I'll let you know.
I can be a High Point location if you need me to be.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, thank
Everyone
you.
go to Carolyn's house. Yeah.
Well, yeah, bring your truck here with us.
Okay. Barbara?
Sorry, wasn't muted. I have one not question, but one comment that concerns me. The first thing that is on the ballot is the money, as in, will I pay, vote for a tax? And then the second thing that's on the ballot is, oh, would you like to have the school bond pass? In other words, the schools repaired, whatever. So is there some way that you guys can get a messaging out that really links those together so that people understand that, yes, everybody understands that we need to replace the schools and we need to repair the schools, and we're all for that. But the first thing you ask me is, do you want me to spend more money? They're going to say no. So the order is not something we can control, but that's the order that they're on the ballot.
Great point. Yes. And so I will say first that there was a very concerted effort to change the language on the ballot. And in North Carolina, you have to seek legislative approval from the legislature to get a sales tax connected to a specific issue. And so the Chamber of Commerce in Greensboro led that in a significant way, and were unsuccessful in getting the state legislature to designate the 1/4% sales tax for the schools. And so that will not be on the ballot as written. We know that the Guilford County Commission has made a resolution to make sure that that is, the intent of those dollars. And Mike Halford, the new county manager, has made some additional policy changes to make it a little bit more difficult if and when the Guilford County leadership changes, to make sure that those dollars are going towards school facilities. But back to your point, yes, one of our pieces is really educating people about what is on the ballot, what the language looks like, and so they're familiar with it when they walk in, and they understand those connections between the two. It's not an easy thing, though.
It's good to know, though, that you said I knew the legislature said no. I mean, I knew that. I had heard that already. But what is good to know is that they have made the resolution that how that's going to be used. So therefore, you publicize that also. Exactly.
And I will say that Forsyth County approved a 1/4% sales tax for teacher salaries in the primary of 2020. It's a very different election with a different slate of candidates on that, but they were successful, and their teacher stipend went up $2,000 nearly for every teacher, and that's significant, which puts us now at the bottom of the list in terms of teacher salary pay in Guilford County, which is unfortunate, but first things first, I guess.
Yeah.
Byron, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, in terms of the talking points, because this is a year of the bonds for the ballot. So we have the bond on the question on the primary, and then City Council is also putting a bond for the general. And so people are looking at the cost, trying to get some talking points, because when I look at our property taxes, because I received mine, 57% of our taxes go towards education as of the 21-22. And so that's over half of our spending. Now that does include bond debt, the lottery funding, and education, but that is significant. And then looking at the City Council also wanting to do a $130 million bond as well. So people are looking at all this money, coming out for projects. And so what are some talking points? Because I have my my own concerns about it, but that aside, how do we kind of overcome it? So it's like, well, everybody wants money on the ballot, like every, vote is going to be about money. So to prioritize the education for this ballot, and then if, the sales tax, like what does that mean? Because we're already paying significant taxes. So that's that one question, like what are some talking points? The second part is, what actually can we do with Raleigh? If it doesn't pass, then how can we advocate to put pressure on Raleigh? Based on our state constitution, they're, liable to provide a free and public education for all students. And Raleigh has not changed their funding source, their funding ways with education. That's why we're at the point of needing such a large bond again.
Great questions. So yes, we of course are the only bond on the ballot for the primary on May the 17th. The City Council will, I believe, have 3 bonds on the ballot, which I think that election is now slated for July the 26th, and that'll include affordable housing, public safety, and parks and recreation. It's not our campaign's duty to prioritize the voters' decision. Our duty and our effort is really to get the schools approved, and so we're not necessarily comparing or contrasting these bond referendums. There'll also be different ballot efforts, and so We, of course, are supportive of the needs of the city of Greensboro, but our charge is to approve the school bond and the sales tax. And so we're sort of sticking to that language and not necessarily trying to get in the middle, because it's not, it's not our task right then. Your second question is great. How do we make sure that Raleigh is paying attention to the needs of Guilford County schools, whether that's operating dollars or all the other additional teacher pay issues that are facing that I just mentioned. I will say the Greensboro Chamber and the High Point Chamber and their legislative agendas are very focused on the needs of the school district, and they're included in their legislative agendas annually. And so they're laser focused on that, in addition to many other legislative needs in North Carolina that benefit Guilford County. And so I think it's our responsibility to continue to support those efforts. They have been successful in many of those efforts in hiring good lobbyists to work Raleigh. And as you all know, that elections have consequences. And so how do we make sure that we get folks in Raleigh that are pro schools and that can support our needs in Guilford County? So I wish I had a great answer to that question in terms of how to change the hearts and minds of our legislature, but I'm not sure I do tonight. But Byron, take it away. I know you're smart and engaged, and will be helpful in that also. A magic wand is needed. Yes, sir.
Byron, I remind you, though, that the actual buildings is a local responsibility. What the paying of teachers and all the other support services within schools is a legislative responsibility. But it's our job to make sure our students have the buildings that they need that are optimum for good learning.
Yes. Absolutely.
Dorothy Collins has a question, and she's at Carolyn Bunker's home.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was just concerned that when thank you for allowing me to ask this question. When we let the constituents know, especially in our precincts, a lot of them are wondering where the money has gone, from some of the previous referendums for the schools improvement, the schools such as I see on this list, the 8 schools, but I don't see any public schools such as Fairview.
Fairview's their public school.
Yeah, but I don't see them on the list, and they've
They're
been,
not there.
I know, but it's like,
It's for the next, if they pass this, they want to add. They have to add more.
Mhm.
So I can put a link to the facilities master plan on the in the chat, and it's also on our website, smartschoolbond.com. So every school in Guilford County that's a public school that does not include publicly funded charter schools or private schools is on the facilities master plan, and it is an order of need. And you can see the changes that we made, the improvements that we made, the dollars that are currently allocated to each school. It does not include a timeline because, as you know, construction is, unpredictable. And so you can see that. And so if you have a question about Fairview, you can find Fairview on the list and you can see the specific changes. As I mentioned, there has been, significant progress made since the $300 million was passed. And I think it's important to remind everybody that there's about $800 million of deferred maintenance in our schools. And so that's really due to years and years of neglect in terms of the funding needs to keep these buildings up and running. And so these are the $2 billion need. It's not something that has happened overnight. It's really a reflection of folks not investing in the school buildings. And so things have caught up. And so, but every school in the district will be touched, and you can find all those on the website. Did that answer your question, Dorothy?
It did, sort of. It's just that for so many years, these schools have been neglected. The schools like,
Give her some,
yeah,
some examples.
like for instance, Andrews, they are seriously in need of bathrooms, that type of, and the classrooms are in High Point Central. What's the other one? The middle school next to Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Wellburn.
It's
Ferndale.
Wellburn, and then there's Ferndale and
Central.
High Point Central,
Mhm.
and those schools are in desperate need of renovations. And it seems as though over the years that we've had referendums to, improve the schools, but nothing's been done. In the last 4 to 5 years, I know.
If you can give us the website or the link, that would be great, Cecelia.
I just popped it in there, and that goes directly to the plan. You can see every
Okay.
school, and
Okay.
I'll just say I do a lot of these presentations right now, and it's always really great to hear how passionate people are about their particular neck of woods and their schools that their children have gone to or they go to. And that could be everything from, some of the growing pains that we're having around, moving ball fields or the bathroom needs or the trailers at Northwest. I mean, I've heard all of it. And I think what our opportunity is right now is the full 1.7. And so if we don't pass that, where will we be? We won't be anywhere. And so, our need, if we want to make sure that every school in the district is touched, is to go ahead and get this approved, so we can really worry about those details later, because we won't be able to do it if we don't have the dollars. Byron, did you have another question?
Yes, thank you for taking this question.
Kimberly, you've got to take the volume off of yours and talk with this, okay? It echoes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I feel I really am happy that Dorothy asked that question. And if that is the case, that these are public schools, I'm not seeing the word public in your advertisement. And I did read the referendum, and I don't believe I saw the word public used in the referendum. As people need to know when they do read the referendum that perhaps, these are public schools, but they won't know that unless you tell them.
That's a great point. We don't want to trick anybody, but we also know that we want everybody to support the school. So I think that's a great point in terms of public schools, and we can certainly refine our language, but we don't want to turn anybody away either if they just want to support the schools.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get it. Okay. Doc Kearns has a question. Is that okay?
Sure.
Someone's already asking this. but
Wait a minute, wait a second.
I missed the answer. Where can we get signs? I don't see the signs out anywhere.
We just had the signs printed, and so we've got about 500 at our office right now at Action Greensboro. And so our office is on the corner of Friendly and Elm Street in the self-help building.
Dead end street, but there need to be signs all over.
That is right. Yes, we need to get them out. They're not doing any good in our office. And so if you're coming to the Guilford Education Alliance meeting next week, we'll have 500 of them out.
Signs at all the, like at Democratic headquarters and Republican headquarters and all the places that people go in and out of. And the signs are very important. To
Agreed.
have enough of them.
Yes.
Thank you. Where should we go to get one now?
I've got the address.
Yeah, Caroline. has
Well,
all
I'm
the
asking
information.
for the public. Who,
Okay.
where, if
Yes.
somebody wants a sign, where do they go to
I'll
get
put
it?
it in the chat.
She's going to put it on the chat.
She said, what?
She's writing it out
Yeah,
here.
she's got, see all this? She's got to get the information right here for us.
The signs are available at Action Greensboro's office, and we're in the self-help building on the corner of Friendly and Elm Street in downtown Greensboro. And the address is 112 North Elm Street.
112 North Elm. That's crazy. 112. We gotta go to
I
Greensboro.
still don't know where she said we could go to get a sign.
I'll
In
check.
Greensboro.
Greensboro. We're going to Greensboro.
Well, is there not somewhere in High Point we could put signs?
Cecelia,
Yeah.
I'll talk to you offline and we'll set up something here in High Point if you already have
I'm going to
something.
put my email in the chat.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Barbara and Byron.
I think Byron was first.
Byron?
Thank you, Cecelia. I wanted to, again, when it comes to the talking points, get some understanding, because when I talk about the bond in my community, I'm getting back, well, you know, Guilford County Schools just got $300 million or in like CARE Act funding. And then we have $9.4 million left from the county commissioner for the technology and security budget, and only 600,000 has been used. So then Francis, well, why are we pressing a bond for for this amount? And we just received CARES Act funding that was, according to News and Record, going towards doing some of the facilities and ventilation and repairs. Like there hasn't been a lot of talk about publicly about a lot of the breakdown of what that funding went for. And then you mentioned earlier about the $800 million needed in repairs overall in deferred maintenance. So is that, I mean, would that be the response? Like did that $300 million go towards emergency repairs and ventilations, and then we're still needing the remaining of that covered with the bond plus for new infrastructure and academies? Because that's what I'm getting back. We just got money. Hundreds of $millions in money. Why are we needing another bond?
Yes. Okay. So let me back it up a little. So the $2 billion of need for the facilities master plan includes the $800 million of deferred maintenance that I referred to. There was $300 million that was approved in 2020, and that has been allocated to those 8 schools that were top need from the facilities master plan. The CARES Act, or the ESSER funds that came in from COVID relief, were for very specific uses, and those are being allocated, but they're not addressing the full needs that were already identified in the original master plan. And then, of course, there is additional dollars that are remaining from other, efforts. I want to emphasize that in 2017, $2 billion looks very different in terms of what you could get done with that in 2017 than what you can get done right now in 2020. And so I'm not necessarily saying that there's more than $2 billion of needs, but I am saying that it is necessary to pass this 1.7, even if we have some additional change hanging out there. And so we can go, we don't want to Band-Aid on HVAC systems. We want to rebuild, repair, add technology, add the additional training, provide the teachers the tools that they need to educate our students, not only for their personal success, but for our future workforce. And so I'm not trying to give a political answer to you, because I'm sure I can go back and I can get more specific answers in terms of those additional, those questions that you have about those dollars. But with inflation right now, we are very much in need of this $1.7 billion to make it happen. And I think trying to scrounge from one pot to the other to pull it together is not going to make the cut for our community.
Absolutely. And to perspective too, I think it was Miss Dorothy's question earlier, for one HVAC system that we put at Lincoln Middle School was $5 million. And and somebody just posted that we have 126 buildings. And so you look at cost for one HVAC was $5 million. And, we did renovations at Page, and we did trying to prioritize with different groups, saying, all our schools need help, trying to determine the feasibility of schools in terms of, what buildings should keep. I mean, when we talked about the security, I'll close. When we talked about the security, Grimsley has over 70 points of entry. And so when we were talking about security and safety and mass shootings and all of that, the cost to close over 70 doors and redesign all of that was easy, over $100+ million for one school. So it goes quickly when it comes to construction for schools. It does go quickly, and contractors fly towards districts when they're talking about a bond. And so and now with COVID and cost of materials, it's going to be even less. This will go less than what it would have 5 years ago, just to add some perspective. But thank you. So you did answer my question, and I'm happy to put my email for the follow-up for that breakdown as well, so I can take that to my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara?
The talk a few minutes ago was about the fact that there is a confusion about what kinds of schools. Guilford County does not have any purview except for public education facilities. It has nothing to do with charter schools. It has nothing to do with private schools. So it may not have public schools in the referendum terminology, but it cannot be for anybody else. That money is to go, and the work that's to go on it is from the Guilford County government, and they control the Guilford County public schools and their facilities.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Whitney? Whitney, you're on mute.
If she ready.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
I just want to thank you, Cecelia. This question is for you, by way of thanking you. This is a very persuasive hour that we've had. And I want to ask you about all of these presentations that you make. I'm appreciating them so much, and I want to know how they're going. Do you receive well-educated questions? Do you receive hostile questions overall? Because I think I'm worried about the turnout for the primary. So I wanted to know if you think those presentations are being well received. I hope.
Whitney, thank you for that question. The presentations that we are making are well received. I think our challenge right now is getting people to think that this issue is not political. This is a nonpartisan effort. This is a bond referendum, a community referendum campaign, not a partisan campaign. And so I'll tell you frankly that we have been turned down by organizations in this community that I've been really surprised by, that have not given us the time to present because they perceive this as too political for their group. And so that's one of the challenges. I think overall, the folks that invite us in the room are well, they're excited about learning more. They're enthusiastic about our county's future. They have good questions, just like this group. And they're good critical questions that help us actually improve our campaign. And so I want to thank everybody for, providing that feedback and these good questions today so we can go back and fine tune. So it's a really weird primary, I will say. We did a poll at the beginning of this process to kind of better understand folks' aptitude towards both of the items. And what we found was this was just going to be a tricky election because the folks that are on the ballot, there's not a whole lot of reason. And again, I don't want to make this political, but we know that Democrats and independents are most likely more supportive of these kinds of issues. And there's not a huge reason in terms of a candidate purpose to come out to vote. And so that's one of the challenges that we have in front of us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I have several follow-ups. I definitely want to make sure I answer Byron's question about those dollars. You have the facilities master plan link. I'm going to follow up with my friends in High Point to make sure that we can get you some signs. I think the High Point Chamber is going to be a distribution spot. We just need to make sure that's happening. Dot your spot on. The more signs we get out, the more we know. And so if you're coming to the GEA breakfast next Wednesday at First Baptist in Greensboro, we'll have lots of signs there. You can pick them up, or you can send me an email. So I'm very available, and Margaret knows how to reach me.
And I also can get signs to y'all if that would be helpful. So
Okay.
I'll work with Cecelia on that.
That's great. Dot had one final question. If you have a minute, Cecelia.
Sure.
Can I ask them now?
You can ask her now.
Okay. I don't want to be redundant, but I do want to hold High Point up. High Point is a major part of Guilford County, and we need to know where we can pick up signs and have people to put them out. And we've done that many times. So we need to know where we can go to pick up signs in High Point. When Fred Pryor ran for office, he only had one great big ad, and it said, "I have never for 1 minute forgotten that High Point is in Guilford County. And so we want to be sure those of us that are here from High Point want to hold it up and be a major part of getting this passed. Our schools need it badly. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. High Point is a huge component of this. And Frank Thomas, my co-chair, is a leader in High Point. And so we'll make sure that we can find I will admit, I just came back. I got married on Saturday and came back, and I'm working on this. And so we're going to get that High Point location set up, and we'll have it to you next week and do that. And we have a really great video also that I can share with you, maybe a follow-up email just about High Point and their support for this. And so we're very inclusive.
Thank you for letting us into your honeymoon.
I'm not on my honeymoon yet. I plan, the election was
Obviously.
so the wedding was planned around the first date of the election, not the redo.
Well, congratulations on your wedding, and we'll take care of High Point. No worries.
Yeah. I'm happy to do some help in Greensboro if you want.
Absolutely.
I live in a neighborhood where there are quite a few kids, and so I think people are interested in the schools, so we can maybe do some of that work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen.
Well, I thank you, Carolyn, for helping make this happen tonight for our friends and members. And thank you, Cecelia. You've just done a perfect job.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mary Miller is trying to ask a question, I think, but she doesn't know how to raise her hand other than physically. Mary, were you trying to ask
I have
us
a
something?
question for Cecelia. Could you tell me the oldest school in Guilford County and how old it is? Because when people have questions, I'd like to have that knowledge.
Mary, that's a really great question, and I don't know the answer, but I can see if I can find out.
Okay.
We have a man on our committee who was the first class at Kaiser, and he's Ned McMillan, and he talks about he was the first class and he's helping rebuild it. So, but Ned is not 100 years old, and so I'll have to find that out. Is it Grimsley, Byron? Oh, 1899. Okay.
Grimsley, 1890. Wow.
College.
Yeah.
And which school is that?
Well, that's
Grimsley.
No, it's Grimsley. Grimsley,
Oh, Grimsley. Oh, okay.
1899.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's 123 years. That's
I don't think that's correct.
I don't think we
for
have
the
any
current-
graduates left.
I think the current Grimsley building, I think, was built in the 1930s.
That sounds more like it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody gets that information, just shoot me a text or an email and I will get it out. Okay.
Thank you.
So I think is there anybody else out there that has a question or a concern? If not, we're going to say thank you very much to Cecelia and wish her to have the best, lovely post-wedding election ever.
Thank you. Thank you. It'll be my wedding gift to pass this.
And thank you, Margaret, for all of your help of getting this put together, and everyone, thank you so much for participating. This will be, we are recording this, and this will be available on the League of Women Voters website. I don't know how long it will take, maybe a couple days, but if you have friends, neighbors, family, what have you, that need to see this, please check out the League of Women Voters Piedmont Triad website in a couple days, and it should be available. Okay. And thank you again for everybody for coming, and have a good evening. And we've got sunshine and no tornadoes. Yay.
I know, I was so worried.
Grimsley was built in 1929.
What? I'm sorry.
Grimsley was built in 1929.
29, okay.
The actual
But-
building that's there now. I thought so. I thought it was built in the building 20.
Yeah, okay,
Right, but
okay.
it was founded in 1899 as Greensboro High School. Then it became Greensboro Central in 1911, and then Greensboro Senior High in 1929 when it moved, and then the name was changed in 62 to Grimsley in honor of George Adonijah Grimsley, the superintendent of Greensboro from 1890 to 1902.
Okay, so basically it's still in the same building, but has just been under different names over all these years, correct, Brian?
It's a different building. So it's like Grimsley's the oldest institution since it originated. It was the first high school, but it has changed locations. But the core of it was first. It's the oldest. So the theory of what we now know as Grimsley is the oldest school, but it has moved campuses twice, and so the current campus was 1929.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
what Mary was sort of.
she was looking for a
aiming at was the-
building.
The
Yeah.
oldest physical building that we're
Yeah.
still using.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's the 1929 date, number.
Yes, it's still
Yeah.
Grimsley.
Yeah, but it's still Grimsley, yeah. It's just
still
not nice.
Grimsley.
It's just not a 126 years old building though.
A little younger. It's a little younger.
Yeah, we're having a discussion here because we always have to talk about High Point. So it may be William Penn. But it may be William Penn, but we'll fight that battle on at another time. So I'm gonna say good night to everybody. Have a wonderful evening. It looks nice. Go out and have a walk. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. It is William Penn.
It is William Penn.